You're listening to the SweetLife Entrepreneur Podcast. Simplified strategies to grow your service business and launch a life you love faster. With business mentor and entrepreneur activator, April Beach.
All right, I am so excited to meet Stefanie Gass, and she is in the house today. We're on video, so if you're watching video behind the scenes on our YouTube channel, we love that you guys have joined us. Stefanie is here, and what makes it so special about this episode is that even though we just met, we're like the same person. We have the same life, pretty much, with kids and being at home and working from home and building online businesses designed around our life. And I'm so glad to have Stefanie on the show because she's talking about something that I'm a little unfamiliar with. So we're talking about podcasting and how to grow your business with podcasting. But when I launched this podcast, I had an established brand, an established list, an established following. And one of the things that I'm seeing is so many people are interested in getting podcasting, but they're like, oh my gosh, I don't have a following already. I don't know how to do that. So Stefanie is in the house today talking about her experience and how she helps other entrepreneurs grow their company through podcasting with no list. So this is for all of you guys that are brand new, you have not started a business yet, or you really don't have a ton of traction, or you have a really small email list. So Stefanie, I'm so grateful that you're here. Thank you so much for joining us. Give yourself an intro and tell everybody about yourself and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. Well, hi, April, and thanks for having me on. I'm so excited to be here. So hello, everybody. I'm Stefanie Gass. I'm a mama. I've got two littles, 5.5 and 2.5. So full-fledged mompreneur life up in here. If you're watching the video, you can see my mom bun is in the house. I've got my little one napping, one's at school. So it's really about just building this dream around them. And that's what got me started in entrepreneurship 7 years ago. I went from six-figure corporate mogul, like jet setting to Germany and Spain and running this financial division and working 60 hours a week to, I'm married. Do I still want to work like this? We're ready to start thinking about kids. And so I think divine intervention stepped in and showed me entrepreneurship. And my mom actually approached me. She's like, hey, I'm going to do this network marketing company. Do you want to do it with me? And that wave was just getting started. I didn't know anything about it. And I thought, sure, that promo video with that chick on the pink flamingo sipping her drink, like, I think that looks good. Sign me up, right? So I just full-fledged, man. And I actually got our company shut down here at the same time. And so my husband's like, go crazy. Try it for a year, see what happens. So I just went crazy. I wasn't just, selling the Kool-Aid. I was mixing it. And I did it. Within 2 years of this network marketing business, I hit the top 1%. I'm walking the stage with the $50,000 check, the car, the trips, and checking all the boxes like, woo, I made it. And here's the thing, though, guys, happiness isn't found in money, right? Mm-hmm. And so I had this really hard reality when we're having these $17,000 months, living this lifestyle of, it can only go up from here. Mm-hmm. When reality set in, and that wasn't the case. People started to leave for different companies and things started to happen within my own company, and our income was cut in half within about 12 months. And at that moment, I realized all of my worth had been tied up in achievement. All of who I was, I had put into the success in that company. And so I went through like this identity crisis. I'm like, who am I? I'm not a network marketer, then who am I? That's what I thought I was. And so I found myself 60 pounds overweight, 2 babies. We're borrowing money from my son's savings account. I mean, it was rock bottom for a minute. And I took the last $200 that were hidden away in PayPal. And I'm like, I have to talk to someone. And so I got with this mentor, 45 minutes. And it was the most casual conversation. Nothing like, groundbreaking was said other than, Stefanie, what do you love about network marketing? You don't have to do network marketing if you don't want to anymore, right? It was like permission. And I said, well, I love working with women and I love to see them get a goal and then dig out all of the confidence and figure things out and then conquer their fears and fail forward enough to see that they can do it and just encouraging them. And I love public speaking. And he's like, Coach, Why don't you just help female entrepreneurs in general? You're great at sales and marketing, obviously. Do that. I'm like, oh, okay. I could do that? Like, what does that even mean, right?
Yeah.
So interestingly, I think once I gave myself permission, doors started opening. Mm-hmm. That first person called. It's like, hey, Steph, can I work with you? And I'm like, well, okay, sure. I mean, I don't know. And so I think that's kind of when I started helping network marketers, regardless of the company they were in, sell in an authentic way that felt really morally right, helping them understand Facebook marketing, Instagram marketing. And then it transitioned into female entrepreneurs in general. And now I work with any type of female entrepreneur for the most part. I run a podcast that I pair Christianity and business and balance.
It's like this one. That's why I was so excited to have you on that. I'm like, yes, it's so awesome. And what's the name of your podcast?
It's the Mompreneur Mastermind Show.
Very cool. Yes, yes.
Yeah. So now that's what I do. Like, I just help women freaking be awesome and make a passive income lifestyle, just like you. It's great.
I absolutely love it, love it, love it. Okay, so talk to us about, so you got out of network marketing, and we talked about this behind the scenes before we started recording, because I shared with you I have so many friends that are in network marketing, and this is not a network marketing business podcast, but I do see so many women on social media, and I know we have a lot of network marketers that still do follow this podcast as well, because they're eager to pick up the business strategies. That is super exhausting, that constant rah, new leads. It actually isn't different in that sense from online business, in the fact that we always have to put out new content. We always have to be inspiring people. It's the same, but different. I do believe there's a huge difference when we're building our own brands rather than somebody else's brands. And I know that you value that as well. And so, segue, like transitioning, when we're talking about constantly connecting with people in a really, really intentional way, the way you found out that you really wanted to do that was through podcasting. So like, tell us quickly, and then we'll get into today's training, because I'm really excited for Stefanie to give you guys the first three steps to launch your own podcast. But talk to us about how that came around for you, and you're like, yes, I want to do this. I want to do podcasting.
Sure. So when I decided to do this whole coaching and this Success of Stefanie brand, I had nothing. All I had was my network marketing business, and everyone was still doing that. So no one's like, oh, I just, I'm going to go over here and follow you. So I really was starting from ground zero. So I thought, it's blogging, right? And so I started this blog, and I'm typing, and I'm got a brand new baby that I'm nursing at the same time. I'm typing with one hand, like, you guys, the struggle is real. And I did this, and I'm like, no, this isn't it. It's like, it's so slow. Like, this is molasses. Like, come on. And so then I go, okay, it's video. So I start a YouTube channel, right? Now, look at me. I am a mother. Like, I don't want to get ready every day. And so I do my hair and makeup, and I try to record, and the kid would run in and, talk about poop or something. I'm like, why? So the YouTube wasn't working. So then I'm like, okay, it's YouTube Live. So I'm like, every Tuesday, I'm going to do Topic Tuesday. I'm going to get in there. And it was sporadic because, again, my market is moms, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes they'd watch and sometimes they wouldn't, because guess what they're doing? They're taking care of kids.
Children. Yeah, okay.
Exactly. So then I go, nope, it's Facebook ads. Start investing. And all of these things were working, kind of. And I was growing, but it was just slow. The same people that would buy one thing for me would buy all my things. And that was such a blessing. But I knew, if everybody's buying everything, what if I can get 100 people to buy, 1,000 people to buy? Because I know it's something that's helping them. How do I scale? Super frustrated at the end of this 2-year mark, right? So then I just said, I give up. Like, I literally sacrificed, and I started to pray on it. I said, just show me. Like, what am I missing here? What is happening? And I went to bed, and I'm not joking. I woke up that day, and an idea had been planted in my heart, and it was, you're starting a podcast.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even an avid podcast consumer at the time. I followed a couple, and I thought, okay, all right, God, I hear you. Like, let's see how this is going to go. And just grabbed this $30 Amazon mic I had laying around. It's very crackly. Don't go listen to episode 1. And try to figure it out all by myself. And I was so overwhelmed, and I got lost in the process of how for a while, but figured it out. And I launched this show. And it's insane because in 7 months, I grew 100 times faster than I had grown in 2 years. And why? Because when you understand your avatar, and my mama that's listening to me, she's me. She's trying to reheat her coffee for the 10th time, drive her kids to daycare. She's trying to do the dishes while she listens. She's not reading. She's not watching video. She's listening. So that's the first thing. It was making it convenient for her. That exploded my brand. Secondly, it was the fact that I was constantly showing up. I was consistent for the first time ever.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a post on Instagram, and then next week I'll go live, and then maybe I'll have a YouTube video. It was like, what is happening with this chick? She's like everywhere, you know?
That your audience would have totally understood, but it was hard for them to absorb you.
They couldn't find me because they don't know when I'm showing up.
Right.
You
and
know?
they totally don't have the time to go looking for you. Like,
No.
they're just not going to.
I don't go looking for people. Like,
Right.
they have to make it easy for me. Like, oh, Steph, ding, watch me now, or listen to me now. And I listen while I do.
Right.
So it changed everything. Revenue went up by 98% within 6 months. Gosh, everything exploded. The community numbers, the website views, just all of it.
Dude.
And that's when I saw it. I'm like, this is the magic.
That is the magic. I love your story. Okay. It's a very similar story to, like, I got into podcasting not because I thought it was like some revolutionary idea, because I did not have time to type a blog, because that was it. It wasn't like some big, huge thing, but that was it. I was like, what I really want people to know that would take me 2 hours to write a full-blown article on, and then edit it, and then put it up there, I could just tell them in 10 minutes. So I
Girlfriend,
love it.
That's why we're voice texting. We're not typing
Right.
text anymore. Like,
No.
who has time for this?
Okay.
Yeah, it's like such a novel idea. Like, oh, I can just speak my content?
Yeah.
Sign me up. Like, amen to that.
No kidding. No kidding. I totally love it. So if you guys are listening to the show and you're like, yes, that's me. I was wondering what was the matter with me? Why can't I put out enough blog posts fast enough? Or I must be a really slow writer, or nobody's going to my blog. Well, you're right, because it's too much work right now. You know, I mean, I have a lot of clients that have like amazingly powerful blogs, but it just doesn't work with my life, to be really honest.
And that's a slow growing machine as well. Yes, blogging is smart, but you can repurpose podcasting into a blog for like $10. Okay?
I love that. Yeah, right? Okay, so let's talk about, first of all, how should people identify if podcasting is right for them?
Okay, so you first have to understand your own strengths and weaknesses. If you're an online entrepreneur, you probably are good at one of two things. One, you're good at writing, okay? And if that's you, and you love it, like, what lights you up? Is it writing? Is it blogging? Well, sister friends, stay there, right? Or is it speaking? Do you naturally prefer to be on video, to speak your text messages? So you first have to understand that, okay? Because you want to do something you love. If you don't love speaking, don't do a podcast.
Right.
You know? So that's the first thing. The second thing is, are you extraordinarily passionate about your mission and what you're doing here right now? What is your brand, and is it lighting you up? Because if you are doing taxes for a living and you go, I'm not excited about it, but I guess what the girls are telling me is I should start a podcast about tax, and you don't love it, and you get on the air and you're going, taxes are good. Like, nobody's going to listen to you, right? But if you're lit up and like, April's dying.
Taxes!
Taxes!
Right off.
That I like. But if you are so excited, that's going to shine through in a podcast. And people are going to listen. They're going to love you. Your personality is going to shine through. So are you good at speaking and writing, or speaking or writing? And then secondly, are you lit up about your topic and your mission? Those are the first two things. And then the third thing, should you podcast? Are you already spending 1 to 2 hours per week on content creation, or do you know that you need to be? If you're already doing it, Instagram posts, trying to get the videos done, stop the madness, do a podcast recording, and then you can repurpose that to YouTube, Facebook videos, Instagram TV. You can get it transcribed for $10 on Fiverr and post it in your blog. So it's not more time necessarily. It's actually, I believe, and for me, it's saving me time.
Yeah.
So that's how you know,
Okay.
in my opinion. I don't know if you think there's anything else to
No,
that.
I think that's totally true too. I mean, full blown. I started a podcast to save time.
Yeah.
And yes, on the repurposing, you know, we do it across the board everywhere. It's super easy, and it's and for those people that prefer to read, or you know, they can have that. I absolutely love that. The thing that I find interesting is understanding, and we've talked about like how to scale the podcast a bit here, and so I want to get into your steps of how to actually launch one.
Sure.
But the thing that I find really interesting now is the number of podcasts that are launching. And I'm in an online podcast community, and the number of podcasts that are launching, and these women are saying, and I'm watching them saying, hey, you know, our show's only been up for 3 months. And, you know, we have, some of them are really sad. They feel sad because they say, oh, we only have like a couple thousand downloads. And other people feel like they're growing slower because they might have only 10,000 or 20,000 downloads.
Yeah.
The thing is, what is so amazing about that is, and it just backs up everything you're saying, is that then a veteran podcaster comes into the group and says, look at what you've done.
Yes.
You have 1,000 people that have heard your voice and heard your mission. 1,000 people that wouldn't have otherwise heard what you had to say without that. And guess what? Besides the sweat equity and maybe paying for some training and maybe paying for a producer, that's free marketing. I mean, you can't get that type of, so whether or not, you know, I've seen new podcasters launching it with, you know, 1,000 downloads in only, you know, the first period of time, or 10,000 or whatever, at first they're thinking, oh my gosh, this isn't great. But then as soon as you flip the perspective going, man, how much money would that have cost you to build that type of an in-depth relationship with people through a Facebook ad? There's no way you could have bought that.
No. And to get 1,000 people to go read your Instagram caption, like
Right.
how many tries are you doing there? How many likes are you getting on Instagram? Like the scalability of a show, and you can't, the comparison is the root of all evil, right? You cannot compare your show, your anything to anybody else's anything. When I set out, I said, I'm only going to look at, did I grow my percentage growth each month against myself, my own numbers?
Yeah.
And I never looked at anybody else's number. And I know I have big goals, but those are my goals. And I know that I could have never touched this many human beings. I tried any other way. Like today, my YouTube channel, which has been out like 7 years, has like 2,000 subscribers, which is fine. But I'm like, you know, you do that in a couple of weeks with a podcast.
I know.
So you can't compare, but you have to think about, how fast can I hit that many people in a different area? And there's no faster way, in my opinion, to do it right now
than podcasting.
Yes.
Totally love that. Okay, so Stefanie, you're going to help our listeners understand exactly the first couple of steps to get a podcast going. Now, I'll be honest, you guys, Stefanie has a full 10 steps to starting a podcast download that we're going to make sure are in the show notes for you here. So you're going to want to go grab all of that. But it's too much to cover here in a podcast episode. So we are going to dive into the first 3 steps that our listeners should know if you want to dive into podcasting. And again, this is for those of you guys that don't even have a list.
Yep.
Or a very small one.
Yes. Okay. Heck yeah. Okay, so the first thing obviously is, what is your show going to be about? What's the content and the niche that you want to touch and speak life into, okay? So you first have to have a brand. And if you don't have a brand, look at, what are your zones of genius? What are you really gifted at? And what are you passionate about? So for example, my zones of genius are sales and marketing and online marketing, but my passion is my faith and spirituality. So I decided I'm going to pair these two things and create a micro niche here of Christian female entrepreneurs. And for me, it just exploded because I'm literally talking to me across that microphone. So your first step 1, what do you want to teach? And then who are you speaking to? And when you guys think about, who am I speaking to, don't get all vague, like ladies and they're 30. Okay, no, you're going to literally name her. So my girl's name is Lola. She's got 2 kids. She's a Christian entrepreneur. She's struggling though, man. Lola's on the struggle bus. She doesn't understand online marketing. She doesn't know where to invest first. Lola's going, I have a passion and I want to create a mini course, but what's a mini course? How do I do this? Right? So she's got all these triggers. And I have a picture of her, you guys. That's how creepy this gets.
No,
okay,
I have a picture
good.
of my girl too.
What's her name?
So funny. Her name is Sarah. And
love it.
And I actually require my clients to have a picture of theirs and post it in our business launch community.
Yeah, listen, like when you guys make that person real, you are now speaking to one human, and that's how you grow. You're solving her problem. So who are you speaking to? And, you guys have heard already how to do that. So really get deep with that. And then when you're also defining your, like, kind of the idea, you want to have a mission to your show, right? So you want to understand, what is the mission to this podcast? And then I have my students come up with 3 topics that feed this umbrella, okay? So let's say that your mission was, I want to empower, men to understand health and wellness, just as an example. Well, then you're going to take 3 subcategories that are going to fuel that. Obviously, nutrition is one, okay? The other piece is probably fitness. And then the third one is probably mindset, the mindset that comes with, or maybe meditation or that type of thing. So once you have 3 categories that fuel the mission, that fuel the umbrella of the podcast, you now really have the basis of your show, right? You have the big picture. So that's step 1. All right. Yes. So then step 2 is digging deeper into this and mapping out I like to have them do your first 30 episodes.
Okay.
And that way, when you actually click record, you don't feel like I only have 1 episode and now I'm lost and floundering. You have 30 things that you can start focusing on. So this is the background, the content creation before you ever click record, right? So the second step would be take Lola or Sarah for April, and you're going to say, what are her 30 triggers? What are they struggling with today? So let's take that men's nutrition example. What is he struggling with? How to bulk up? Which foods to eat? Should he focus on, does he need to do cardio at all versus weightlifting? So you're mapping out all of these hot triggers for your avatar, and then you're making sure you're touching on each of your 3 categories. And you can rotate them. You can say first episode is nutrition, second episode's going to be wellness, third episode's going to be mental, and you can just rotate the same you would as if you had a content calendar, right? So now you've got this basis. So now the next step is to actually get it set up and to plan the podcast and get it going. So once you have all of those baseline things, you then go technical. And that would be, what equipment do you need? And y'all, my first episode was a $30 staticky little mic from Amazon. Okay, it was just laying around. And it's fine. People listen to that episode and it makes me cringe, but whatever. So it's getting started before you're ready, but it's understanding, how do you set up the show? And this isn't rocket science, but you basically need something called a media host, which is going to house all of your episodes for you. They have big bandwidth, so when your show explodes, people aren't waiting for it to buffer. So you've got to figure out which media host you want, and then you're going to basically have that media host push your show out across everywhere that people listen to podcasts, right? iTunes and Stitcher and Google Play and all the places. And all of it's very easy to do. Okay, I'm not going to go into that here, but in essence, you're uploading once and then it's being pushed out for you across all of these platforms, right?
Yes.
So that's getting it set up. You haven't even recorded anything yet, all right? So then the third step, which I'm going to go into, is actually getting that first recording done, okay? So you guys can use, for free, Zoom to record. You can use Skype. You can use Audacity. All of these programs are free. You're going to sit here in front of your pretty little mic, and you're going to have an outline for that very first episode, right? And just make sure that, and I have, in my course, we go into like full-on outline creation because there's a lot that goes into an episode. But in essence, you are basically pouring into your market and solving their problem live on the air. Use an outline that will help you stay, on track, and maybe start with a 15-minute episode once a week if you want, right? You don't have to go crazy here.
Yeah.
But the beauty of that is you can then have that recording and repurpose it. You can have an MP4, which is a video, which is produced for us from Zoom and Skype. And now you have a YouTube channel with your video. You take the MP3, you pop it up into your media host. You now have a podcast in essence, right? You can put it on Facebook. You can put it into Instagram. Where else? You can get it transcribed for $10, and now you have a blog too.
Yeah.
So there's so much more that goes into that. Really, there is. But that's really the first couple steps. It's what are you podcasting about? Really digging into your mission here, understanding your avatar, coming up with your 3 categories, 3 to 5, that you want to pour into, and then coming up with an episode outline or list of things you want to teach, and then getting behind the microphone. That's the first steps.
Yeah, and I just want to add to what you're saying, not even add to it. I just want to, hopefully inspire people based on what you're saying, is that we talk a lot about on this show about content repurposing, and especially because we're almost all mothers, or a lot of women listening to the show have a full-time job and are launching their solopreneur or side hustle business at the same time. And so we have to do this. And this is exactly what Stefanie was talking about in the beginning of the show. So the biggest problem we see, and this is why I love podcasting, the biggest problem we see is that new entrepreneurs, even though you have a lot to say when you're launching your company, knowing like what to say and when to say it, it's kind of hard to come up with that from scratch at the beginning. What's so rad about a podcast is that that's what you're talking about like the whole week. I mean, like Stephanie's saying, you're going to repurpose it on your Facebook page. You're going to repurpose it to LinkedIn if that's where you are. You're going to put a graphic up of that podcast episode graphic on Pinterest that week with a little blurb to a link to it. I mean, it literally removes the guesswork out of what you're saying and when you're saying it and who you're saying it to. So I just want to encourage you guys that this really is simplification. I want to warn you that it's a lot of work still. And so don't get into it. And Stefanie and I were talking about this also. We were talking about it. Don't get into this unless you're totally full blown committed. Because if you launch a podcast, especially if it gets uploaded on YouTube, or not YouTube, excuse me, iTunes, you get there and you've seen those podcast episodes before, and there's like 6 episodes and somebody quits, or 17 and they quit. And unless it's intentionally designed to be a start and a finish podcast, it looks really bad for your brand. So we don't want somebody haphazardly going into podcasting, but this whole show is to give you the concrete steps that if you are new, or if you've been in business only for a couple of years and your list is small, that podcasting could be a really awesome way for you to grow your tribe.
And on that note, April, I want to touch on how does that help you grow your list, right?
Yeah.
Because here you are and you're like, I'm going to launch this show, and I understand what Stefanie's saying and all these things, but how does it actually help me grow a business and a list? Here's the thing. If you don't have a platform where people can understand who you are and you can show up for them consistently, and they can then learn to trust you, they know if they like you or not. Someone can listen to me, my first episode, and go, I'm for Steph, or heck no, this girl's too much for me, right? And so you want to attract the people you want to attract, and a podcast lets you filter, but it also creates diehard fans. And people can go find your show and binge listen. If you have 20 episodes and they like you, guess what they're doing that week? They're listening to everything you've got. And by the time they're done, not only do they want your freebies and your opt-ins, which you're mentioning on the air, obviously you're going to have a call to action every time, right? That feeds into like, hey, nutrition guy, right? Mm-hmm. This is my free mini training on macros 101 or something. So you're growing the list through the show, and as April preaches all the time, passive income creation. So people can look at you and go, well, what more do you have for me? I need more from you. I'm vibing with you. I trust you at the highest capacity. And if I'm going to hire someone, it's going to be you.
Yeah. Because I listen to your voice every week.
Exactly.
And you show up for me every single week.
And when they're ready to invest, they're not going to buy from someone that they've never heard their videos. They've never heard their voice. It just doesn't happen, or there's no retention. If they do, they got sold and they're not coming back. Right. But if they truly are learning from you and you're solving their problems, they will buy from you, right? And that's how you're going to grow and scale your business. And the more that you pour out for free your best stuff, the more they will talk about you, and organic growth just takes off.
Yeah, it's so great, you guys. It's super great. Okay, so today on the show, we talked about using a podcast to actually grow your company and the 3 steps for you to really walk into this. So 3 really, really concrete steps that Stefanie laid out for you in order to get started. She has all of the rest for you in today's show notes of the 10 steps to starting a podcast. So make sure that you guys go over there and grab those. Stefanie, thank you so much for being on the show. And say the name of your podcast again so people can find you.
Absolutely. It's the Mompreneur Mastermind Show. Anywhere you guys listen to shows, it's there. Come connect. Come say hi.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, it's so good to meet you, and can't wait to share your information with more people.
Thanks, April.
Yeah, thank you.